Claude Cowork is the only $20 monthly subscription I've found that actually feels like hiring a human assistant. And the people who haven't set this up yet are doing manually what their agent could be handling for them every single week automatically. So in this video, I am going to walk you through the entire setup of Cowork from absolute scratch. And by the end, you will have a fully functioning assistant ready to take over your repetitive tasks completely. Before I show you the setup, I want to show you what Cowork actually does, because this is the part that changed how I think about the tool entirely. I have a folder on my desktop full of messy client meeting notes. Some are PDFs, some are text files, a few are Word docs, and none of them are organized. Normally, I'd spend about 45 minutes going through each one, pulling out the action items and logging everything into a spreadsheet. But instead, I'm going to open Claude Cowork, give it access to that folder, and describe what I want. And now I can literally step away. Cowork reads the task, creates a plan, breaks it into subtasks, and starts working through every file in the folder. I can see it spinning up multiple workers in parallel, each one processing a different document at the same time. About 3 minutes later, the spreadsheet is sitting in my output folder. Every action item is pulled, organized by client name, and formatted with columns for deadline and status. That's the core idea behind Cowork. You don't have a conversation, you describe an outcome, and Claude goes and builds it. Now I want to make sure you have Cowork set up properly, because the way you configure it at the start determines how useful every single task after this will be. And by the way, I put together a free starter kit with the full setup checklist, every prompt from this video, and the context file templates ready to fill in. You can grab it in the description below. Cowork only runs inside the Claude desktop app. You can't use it in the browser or on your phone. So the first step is to download it from claude.com/download and make sure you're on the latest version. You'll need a paid Claude plan to access Cowork. Pro at $17 a month gives you full access to everything I'm about to show you. And Max at $100 a month gives you about 5 times the usage if you're running heavy tasks throughout the day. I'd start with Pro and only upgrade if you're consistently hitting the usage limits. Once you're inside the desktop app, switch over to the Cowork section and click Work in a Project. I'm going to create a new folder called Claude Workspace, and this is where everything lives from now on. Claude can read, write, and edit any file inside this folder and its subfolders, but it can't touch anything outside of it. That isolation is by design, and it's one of the reasons Cowork feels safer than tools like OpenClaw that get full system access. One tip when you're first getting started, keep duplicates of any files you care about in a separate folder, just in case something gets edited or deleted by mistake. Cowork will ask for confirmation before deleting anything, but it's worth having that safety net while you're learning how it works. Now I want to set up a clean structure from the start, because this is what makes every future task faster. I'll ask Cowork to create 3 subfolders: context for my standing instructions, projects for active work, and outputs for everything Claude delivers. And inside the context folder, I want 3 markdown files that Cowork reads every time it starts a new task. The first is about -me.md, which covers who I am, what I do, and what my current priorities are. The second is brand-voice.md, which explains how I write, what tone I use, and which phrases to avoid. And the third is working-preferences.md, which tells Cowork how I want tasks handled, where to save files, and how to structure deliverables. I'll ask Cowork to help me fill these out, and it'll ask me a series of questions to get the information it needs. Once those files exist, every new task Cowork runs will pick up that context automatically. It knows my role, my voice, and my preferences before I've typed a single word. And this is the part that gets skipped the most, but it's what separates Cowork giving you generic output and giving you output that actually sounds like you wrote it. Without these files, every session starts from 0. With them, every session starts from exactly where you left off. The last thing to configure is global instructions. I'll go to Settings, then Cowork, and add a line that tells Claude to always read the context files before starting any task. And this one step makes Cowork noticeably more consistent across sessions. Right now, Cowork can handle anything on my local machine, but the real value comes when it can reach into the apps I actually use every day, and that's what connectors make possible. Connectors are how Cowork talks to apps outside your computer, things like Gmail, Google Calendar, Slack, Google Drive, Notion, and over 30 more. They all use a protocol called MCP, which basically creates a secure bridge between Claude and each app. I'll go to Settings, then Connectors, and click Browse Connectors. The first one I want is Gmail. I'll authenticate with my Google account, and then I get a permission screen where I can choose exactly what Cowork is allowed to do. I'll set read emails to always allow and draft emails to always allow, and then I'll go through the rest of the permissions and adjust them based on what I'm comfortable with. Then I'll add Google Calendar the same way. Now I have both connected, and I want to show you what that actually looks like in practice. I'll give Cowork a task that pulls from both apps at once. And Cowork goes into Gmail, finds the relevant emails, cross-references my calendar for upcoming meetings, and builds a 1-page prep document that's sitting in my outputs folder about 2 minutes later. And that's what separates using Cowork as a file organizer from using it as an actual assistant. Once it's connected to your apps, you can ask it to pull information from multiple sources, combine it, and deliver something you'd normally spend 20 minutes building manually. And here's another workflow that I run almost every day now. I'll tell Cowork to go through all of my emails from today and draft a response for each one, but not send anything, just save the drafts. Cowork reads every email, looks at the context of the conversation, pulls my writing style from the brand voice file we set up earlier, and writes a draft response for each one. Then I just go through the drafts, tweak anything that needs adjusting, and hit send. That turns what used to be about 2 hours of email every day into maybe 15 minutes of reviewing. And because Cowork has my brand voice file, the drafts actually sound like me rather than generic AI responses I'd have to rewrite from scratch. There are over 38 connectors available right now, and new ones are being added regularly. Connectors let Cowork reach your apps. The next step is making sure you never have to explain the same task twice. Skills are how you turn any task Cowork has already done into a repeatable workflow that runs with a single command. And the best way to create a new skill is to do the work first and then turn it into a skill after. Instead of trying to describe a workflow from scratch or downloading something pre-built, you complete a real task, get the result you want, and then tell Cowork to package that exact process into something repeatable. That's what I'm going to do with the extracted meeting notes from the start of the video. Cowork takes the task I already completed, builds a structured skill from it, tests it against a set of criteria, and installs it. The newer version of skills actually spins up 4 separate workers to evaluate the skill in parallel, checking the output against the instructions to make sure it's consistent before it goes live. Once it's installed, I can trigger it anytime just by telling Cowork to run that skill, and it picks up the full workflow instantly without me re-explaining anything. And from here, I can attach that skill to a schedule. I'll tell Cowork to run the meeting notes skill every Monday at 9 a.m., and it immediately creates a new task into the scheduled tasks tab showing the timing of when it'll run. One thing to keep in mind with scheduled tasks is that they only run while the desktop app is open and your computer is awake. If your machine goes to sleep, Cowork skips the run and catches up when the app reopens. So if you want these running consistently, keep the app open on a machine that stays on. And if you want to trigger tasks while you're away from your desk, Anthropic recently launched Dispatch, which pairs your phone to your desktop through the Claude mobile app. You send a message from your phone, Cowork executes it on your computer, and the results come back to your phone. Every skill and connector you've already set up carries over automatically. So to give you an idea of what a full week looks like once everything is configured, here's how mine runs. Monday morning at 9 a.m., the meeting notes skill runs and updates my action items spreadsheet. Every weekday, Cowork drafts my email responses using the Gmail connector and my brand voice file. And every Friday afternoon, I have a scheduled task that pulls my calendar for the following week and builds a prep document for every meeting that has an agenda attached. None of that requires me to open the app and type anything. So at this point, Cowork is set up with a clean workspace, context files that carry your identity and preferences into every session, connectors that plug into your real apps, skills that let you rerun your best workflows with a single command, and scheduled tasks that run without you ever opening the app. The thing that surprised me the most is how fast this compounds. After about a week of small corrections, like telling Cowork to format things differently or adjust how it handles edge cases, my skills stopped needing edits. The context files and the instructions got specific enough that Cowork was getting it right on the first pass consistently. And one thing I want to be clear about is, Cowork out of the box without the context files and the folder structure is a completely different experience than Cowork properly configured. The 30 minutes you spend setting up those markdown files and organizing your workspace is what separates generic AI output you have to rewrite from output that actually matches how you work and how you communicate. That setup cost pays for itself on the first real task you run. And everything I just showed you works on a $17 a month pro plan. If you want to see how I set up Claude before Cowork was even in the picture, I made a full video on why I switched from ChatGPT to Claude in the first place. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.